What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today we're going to find out what the best and worst movies are of 2024. We're going to be doing a reaction video to Critical Drinker. This is somebody that actually quite enjoys takes on movies. Do I agree with every single take he's ever had? No. But I think he has a pretty good takes when it comes to most of the movies. And yeah, I'm intrigued to see how much similarities there are between what I thought were the best movies of the year and what he thinks and what are the worst. I'm sure he'll have a lot more to say about the worst movies of the year. What predictions? What predictions? I mean, Joker 2 probably. I haven't seen it. I haven't even seen the first Joker movie. It's not something that interests me. And when I heard it was a musical, I was never going to watch that. Borderlands was pretty fucking shit. And that's probably in my worst five of the year. There's a few shitty horror movies like Night Swim and The Exorcism that he probably won't have in there. I doubt he even saw some of those movies, but definitely be on my list. Madame Web, maybe. He's probably going to focus on some of the mainstream ones. Maybe he'll say Gladiator. I don't agree with Gladiator being one of the worst, but yeah, we'll see what he says on the worst. The best, some of the best. I mean, Dune's going to be in there. And I'm assuming that he's going to go on American releases. So, for obviously in the UK, some of the best movies that came out in 2024 were actually 2023 movies like Iron Claw, Holdovers. They came out early this year because obviously we get releases a little bit later. But I'm trying to think. I like Dune Part 2. I like Speaks No Evil. Planet of the Apes was decent. Challenges, maybe? I don't know. We'll see what he says. But without further ado, let's get into this video.
Well, I guess it's that time of year again. As the last few days of 2024 tick down into the booze-fueled journey into oblivion that is New Year's Eve, it feels like the right time to look back on the highs and lows of the year that was. I mean, admittedly, it was mostly lows this year, with a movie...
Oh, is he going to talk about TV show? Argyle. Don't get me started. I forgot about Argyle. Argyle is in my worst five as well. That shit is horrible. Is it going to include TV shows? I haven't really watched too many TV shows this year. I know that The Acolyte was pretty bad. I mean, I've seen so many videos on everyone hating on it. Was there any Disney shows this year? I can't remember any Marvel ones that came out this year, but let's continue.
Industry still reeling from the effects of last year's
horrible,
strikes
mate.
and a pretty dismal summer movie season that coined the term flopbuster. But what the hell, I'm going to do my best to sprinkle in a few hints of positivity. And with that in mind...
Deadpool and Wolverine is definitely in my top best movies of the year. Totally forgot about that as well. And then he showed The Penguin. I haven't actually seen the TV show yet, so can't really comment too much on that one.
Let's start with my top 5 personal favourites of 2024.
Let's see.
And top of that list has got to be Shogun, a historical
another TV show that I didn't watch. So with all due respect, I'm just gonna skip past this bit to avoid some spoilers because I haven't seen it.
Shogun. Next up is another easy choice for me, The Penguin. I mean, looking back...
Like I said, he's could put The Penguin on here. Again, I'm going to skip through. If you want to go see his analysis of the movie, go and watch it on this original channel, obviously. I haven't seen it. I don't want to get any spoilers for myself, so we're just going to move on with this one.
In third place is a movie that most of you have probably never heard of, but you definitely should.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this came out in the... So he is going on UK releases, I'm assuming. This came out on the 1st of January here. So literally the first day of 2024 this came out. I went and watched it. Cinema was actually very packed for this. And the whole story is basically this guy who... I can't remember what his job was. Was he a journalist or something? Well, he went to Nazi Germany. And was it Nazi Germany? Wherever it was. And he basically extracted a bunch of kids out of there. And they did whatever they could to get as many kids as they could. And then as he gets older, they kind of just... They basically tell his whole life story, and then it's pretty emotional. It was a very good movie. Is it in my top 5 or best of the year? I mean, maybe top 10. I wouldn't say it's in my top 5 though.
Should watch One Life.
It's good.
A quiet, unpretentious little British film that came out at the start of the year, starring Anthony Hopkins as an old man who once helped Jewish children escape the Nazi occupation of Czechoslovakia. But
that's the one, is Czechoslovakia. Yeah, of course.
Received recognition for his work much later in life. It's not often that a film can bring a tear to the eye of a cynical arsehole like me, but One Life did it with ease. It's an important reminder that there's still good people in the world, and even when humanity is at its worst, it's a chance for men to be at their best. Fourth place...
It's a very good movie. I fully agree with his take there. I really enjoyed the movie. I would say, though, it really depends on the audience. If you like only action movies or you want something a little bit more fast-paced, that's not the movie for you. Maybe Dune Part 2 is. Like I said, Dune... This is probably second in my list of movies this year. I mean, The Iron Claw for me is number 1. That was amazing, but this is right up there. It was great. Dune Part 1 is great. Dune Part 2, it had its issues. I did a review on the channel if you want to go see that. One of the few videos I did release this year, but I still have a few issues with it. I'm not too sure that this brother right here was the right decision to play this character. I don't find it very believable, but you know what? I can't wait for part 3, so let's move.
Goes to Dune Part 2, a sci-fi epic by Denis Villeneuve that finally proved it is possible to make a big screen adaptation of Frank Herbert's classic novel. Visually spectacular but emotionally distant, and boasting the kind of cast that's rarely assembled these days, it was a
Am I the only person who doesn't really like Zendaya in these roles? I don't think she's great in Spider-Man. I don't think she's great in this. I think like Challenges is the type of movie she should be in. Personally, I don't particularly like her in Dune. I feel like she's one of the weak points of the movie. That's just my opinion. And obviously he spoke about like them not being able to adapt Dune before because they did try a long time ago. I think they've done a really good job. I haven't actually read that much of the book. I read like the first 50 pages and then I just went on to other things. But I think he does a really good job of bringing to life the universe. Obviously, you have to compare it to stuff like Star Wars and I guess to some extent Marvel. And I think it holds up really well to the level that those set back in the day or recently.
Landmark achievement for science fiction movies, proving that more intelligent and mature titles can still be viable mainstream prospects. And this last one isn't really a movie or a TV show, but a short film called Rogue Elements.
I've never heard of this.
Nah, I'm just fucking with you. It's actually Star Trek Unification.
I don't know what Rogue Elements is. First and foremost, it must be some absolute meme of dog shit. But Star Trek, something that never interested me. I've never watched anything of Star Trek. It will never interest me. It's nothing. In my opinion, I just prefer Star Wars. And I know it's weird to have that rivalry. I just don't care for Star Trek. It just doesn't interest me at all. So we'll move on. We'll move on to the worst. And as you can see, the best was 3 minutes. The worst is going to be a solid, 9 minutes. So let's have a look.
That I may have shed a tear or two while watching it. For me, that's probably the best this year had to offer, so now let's take a look at the worst.
What was it, Joker?
And wow, narrowing this one down to just 5 choices was a challenge all by.
Honestly, he's very correct. With my list, if you want to go and see what I think are the 5 worst movies of the year and 5 best, the best movies was a lot easier to find like what you enjoyed this year because there wasn't many. The worst list, like it took me forever to like decide which was worse than this. Should I include this movie because not many people probably saw it? Who knows, but I never saw a lot of the bad movies this year. I didn't go and see just because there's no point putting myself through that and wasting my time. Last year, I think I watched 83, 84 new releases throughout like cinema, movies, Netflix, all of that. This year, I think I've done just under 50. And maybe I'll get to 50 if I watch a few more. Like maybe I'll go see that Lion King one. Maybe I'll watch the Lord of the Rings one if I have time. But honestly, I thought last year was pretty bad in terms of like the overall quality. I thought we had at least 20, 25 very good movies last year. This year we've had maybe 5. So yeah.
But there were a couple that I think we
Borderlands, yeah,
deserve to be
one
there.
of the worst.
First up has got to be Madam Web.
Yeah, Madam Web is shit. Madam Web was horrible, mate. Like, none of the characters were interesting. I feel like all the characters did it just for the sake of being in Marvel. Even this woman, what's her name, Dakota Johnson, didn't she say in a interview that she didn't know anything about the source material and she didn't really care for it, whatever, she didn't care. That in itself just talks wonders about the movie. Again, Spider-Man movies without Spider-Man will always be stupid. You know what I mean? Unless the character in itself is interesting or like popular enough. Like Venom. I think the Venom movies do pretty well at the box office compared to these because Venom is an interesting character. You know what I mean? And he's a more popular villain. Like, if you made a Green Goblin or Dr. Octopus movie, it would do way better than this shit. But of course, they had to just go with this bullshit that nobody fucking cares about.
Wannabe superhero movie in Sony's aborted Spider-Verse that was so hilariously terrible, even the actors ended up taking the piss out of it. A decision that was almost certainly the best thing they could have possibly done for their careers. Featuring some of the worst dialogue, worst acting.
I did a review on this as well, if you want to go see it, but the dialogue in this movie and Craven are fucking horrible, mate. It's like, who did you get to write the scripts? Who? Like, did you just put it in ChatGPT? And tell ChatGPT to make it sound as human as possible. Because absolute horrific script. The story in this is fucking horrible. The characters are uninteresting. No one even knows who Madame Web is. Like, just fucking make a Spider-Man movie, mate. Like, why?
Directing and worst writing of any superhero movie ever. It was so bad that even the shill media couldn't possibly defend it. And ironically, the movie's spectacular failure and her ability to laugh at it somehow launched Sydney Sweeney into overnight mainstream success. I mean, I can think of a couple of other reasons too, but still, the film was so
Although, I don't think it was this movie and her ridiculing this movie. She was in quite a few things before this that I feel like was a bit more integral to her, like, going, being more mainstream. Like, didn't she release that, like, rom-com thing at the end of 2023? I didn't particularly like it, but She was the main character of that. She was in so many movies last year. Like last year was her year. Like this came out this year. She was just kind of in it because she, I think, was like kind of the new hot thing there to be put in every movie, similar to like Pedro Pascal. They love to shove this guy in everything. Aaron Taylor Johnson's another one they're just shoving into everything at the moment. I think she just took this role. They shoved her in there. Why not? And of course, if you hate on it, then people tend to like you more, I guess. That's just kind of how it goes. But I feel like her popularity has kind of dropped off a little bit. She hasn't really been in much this year, so yeah, and I think her acting skills are being called a little bit more into question. There's been a few performances that have been pretty bad, in my opinion.
Mocked by everyone that it almost became something for us to bond over. Like,
True.
you almost couldn't even be angry at it because it was never going to be anything better. But do you know what we did get angry over? Fucking Joker 2, a movie that I could best describe as anti-entertainment.
I mean, I'm never gonna watch this. I'm gonna be deadly honest. I haven't seen the first one, although I hear the first one's really good. I've seen clips of it, I've seen reviews of it, but I just never got around to watching it, man. It was on Netflix for a while. Was it 2 hours? It's quite long. I just never got around to it. The whole Batman verse, nothing I really cared about. And I know this is like a character study on the Joker. It just doesn't really interest me. I'll probably watch it eventually one day, but which is why I didn't go see the sequel. Like I thought about it and then I was like, I saw all the horrible reviews. I saw that's a musical. I'm like, couple that together, I'm never gonna go see this. Let's see what he has to say about it.
A film made by people who actively hate the original movie and its protagonist, and by extension...
Actually, I did hear about that. I heard that, like, it just escaped my mind. I heard that a lot of the directors and a lot of the higher-ups hated the movie. It came out in a way they didn't want it to. Like, it was received in a way they didn't expect it to be received. And they actively hate that it inspires incels or whatever, like some bullshit like that. And then they decide to make it as sort of gay as possible, I guess, or as what those type of individuals would hate the most. You know what I mean? I think that's what they kind of went for with this. And I mean, rightfully so, it flopped.
Anyone who enjoyed either of those things. A tedious and plodding deconstruction of the first Joker, unbearably pretentious and weighed down by cringy and unnecessary musical sequences. It was a film that seemed to have been conceived and executed out of pure spite. Oh, so...
That's another thing I kind of despise about these type of movies is you bring in Lady Gaga to be Harley Quinn, when I guess she's brought in there for the musical aspect. But if you actually wanted to make a great movie, I mean, Margot Robbie's been Harley Quinn. I think of the movies she's been in, she was kind of the highlight of those Suicide Squad movies and shit like that, because those movies fucking sucked. I mean, the latest one was okay, but those movies, the one with Will Smith as Ledger, that shit was fucking arse, mate. So, I think she was pretty good in those. So, you know, if you actually wanted to make a good movie, you would just bring her back or try and find a way to bring her back into the stuff like this. And you wouldn't make it a musical, but anyway.
You thought Arthur Fleck might have been a slightly sympathetic anti-hero who had a reason for doing the things he did, eh? Well, you clearly didn't enjoy the film the way we deem acceptable, and you didn't take the correct messaging from it, so we're gonna punish you.
That's kind of what I said.
In the end, it turned out it was the studio who got punished, and Joker 2 ended up being one of the biggest critical and commercial disasters of the year. So you know what? Fuck you, Warner Brothers. Number 3.
Or number 3, this I have a lot to say about how shit this was. Isn't Warner Brothers in a fucking shit ton of debt? Like, haven't they just like completely written movies off recently? Like, they've cancelled them after they've been produced and shit like that. I mean, I don't recall Warner Brothers releasing, like, having any sort of bangers. Borderlands, I mean, there's not much more. I reviewed this, and honestly, this is potentially the worst of the year. I think there might be one movie I hated more than this year, but this was horrible. In terms of like mainstream movies, this was fucking horrible, mate. And like I said, I never played the games. I don't know how faithful it is to the material, but the actors they got looked like they just wanted to earn some money. Like Cate Blanchett, like I don't think she was right for the role. Kevin Hart, which is there doing Kevin Hart things. You know, Jack Black, again, just shoving him into roles he doesn't need to be in. This movie was fucking terrible, mate.
Borderlands. Let me pose you a question, dear viewer. Do you want to see a cartoonish, hyper-surreal first-person shooter turned into a confused mess of a movie with lame action sequences and a nonsensical story, starring a geriatric cast and a lead actress who's a quarter of a century too old for the character?
I was gonna say she's definitely way too old for the role. Way too old. She looks like a grandma, bruv, and I don't think this character was a grandma, but anyway.
Nah, me neither, which probably explains why Borderlands made just $33 million against a $120 million budget, losing the studio tens of millions of dollars and killing any prospect of future movies. Even though it was barely 100 minutes long, it was an absolute slog to get through, and I spent every single minute of it asking myself, why the fuck does this movie even exist? And to be honest,
I honestly don't know. I didn't know Borderlands was such a big thing either. Like I've I had friends who played it. I played like maybe 10 minutes of a demo back in the day, but I didn't realize Borderlands was such a big fan, had such a big fan base. Like the Mario Bros movie, I understand, right? Sonic movies, I understand, very mainstream. But Borderlands was a bit weird for a whole movie to be made about it, and the fact that they made it this bad and this diabolical, like, it just shows they didn't give a fuck about the game or the source material.
Honest, I still don't have an answer for you. Number 4, The Crow.
I
Possibly
didn't see this. The trailers were so bad. The trailers were horrible for this, man. I didn't even bother. I didn't even bother with this. It just looked horrible. It looked shit. I knew I wasn't gonna like it, so I didn't go see it. If you want to go see his analysis on it, be my guest. Alright, so next is The Acolyte. Again, something I didn't see because I knew it would be shit. I mean, I've watched a fucking shit ton of critical videos on it. I also saw this main character actress try to blame, like, incels or some shit. Like, she even made a... Didn't she make a whole song criticizing people or some shit? Like, honestly, I don't understand what they've done to Star Wars, mate. Like, Revenge of the Sith came out when I was old enough and sentient enough to watch it. Because I remember getting the DVD on release and watching it. I think Revenge of the Sith is really, really good. That's just my opinion. So when they announced they're rebooting Star Wars, right, and then we get that first movie with Rey and Finn, and it was kind of shit, right? It was kind of shit. And we're like, it's not great, but surely they might be able to build on this, right? And then it just gets worse and worse. And then they start releasing series after series that no one really cares about and consider are really, really bad, and they're trying to force a weird agenda with it as well. What I don't understand is why they're going with movies and TV shows. Their goal is to take it from a male audience, for example, because let's be real, Star Wars was mainly a male dominated, like, sort of movie genre, whatever, and they're trying to make it to get more females to like it. Like, I understand trying to expand your market share, but from my experience, just make movies that women will enjoy rather than trying to make movies that men enjoy for women. It doesn't make any sense, because then all your original fan base are gonna start hating what you make, and you're just gonna go out of business. You're gonna lose a ton of money. Just look at Barbie and Wicked, two movies that are obviously made for women, and they loved it. Whereas nobody likes The Acolyte. Absolutely nobody, except fucking shill critics like this shit. So it doesn't make sense why they keep doing it, and hopefully Disney snap out of this shit. But yeah, if you want to listen to his criticisms of this, be my guest. I haven't seen it, nor do I care about it. Let's move on.
Now that's the worst of the year, but there's one more category I want to
The
look
Fall
at
Guy.
here, and that's my
Oh.
biggest disappointments of 2020.
Biggest disappointments of 2024. Gladiator 2, probably. I hope for it to be really good, although Ridley Scott's Napoleon was terrible, so it doesn't surprise me. The Fall Guy, I didn't have any expectations. They kept rinsing that Bon Jovi song in the fucking trailer, and it made me hate it. Argyle, I'm surprised he didn't put Argyle in the worst movies of the year. I'm gonna be deadly honest, because that for me was horrible, and the marketing for it was insane, man. Well, let's see what he says. I can't really think of too many in my head, because there wasn't too many I was excited for this year.
24. Not necessarily the worst films or TV shows ever made, but things that I had high hopes for that never quite lived up to expectations. On top of the list for me has got to be Gladiator 2. Damn man, talk about a pointless sequel. It's a movie so preoccupied with venerating the original that it ends up just retelling the same story again.
Yeah, he's completely correct on that. Like, I don't think this movie is bad, right? But if you want to say the original Gladiator is like one of the best movies of all time, in my opinion, it's really, really good. Especially for a standalone original movie that isn't like from a massive IP, for example, it's really good. Probably, you could give it a solid 5 out of 5. This is like the shit version retold from memory. Like if you got hit over the head and you got like Alzheimer's or something and you tried to retell the story of Gladiator, that's kind of what this is. I didn't make a review on it because I just really couldn't be asked, but what I don't understand is why, like, forget all the historical inaccuracies and these lot having like pegs and fucking trebuchets and shit like that, whatever. I don't care about that really. The whole weird, just Maximus suddenly has another son. Like, was this, like, what confused me was, because I haven't seen the original movie for a long time, did he actually have this son? Was this son meant to be his? Because I don't remember that. I remember his son and his wife getting fucking murked, and then this kid was just like the Emperor's daughter's child, right? Or what's his name, right? It was her child, and he was just kind of his hero or something. That's what I remember. I didn't realize that was Maximus was his dad. But you know what? I guess whatever. The Emperors were all awful. I don't know why this guy, like, they made them so fruity. Whatever. It's not the biggest issue. But, like, why did they make them so fruity and then basically be useless and overact every fucking scene and just be so over embellished? Like, it's like, brother, just play the role. Why are you going so crazy? Again, what's this guy's name? He's in that, All of Us Strangers or whatever, the gay movie that I watched earlier this year. It's not the best. He was in that. He's in a few. I forgot his name. It will come back to me. But he's a good actor. But I'm not too sure he was the right man for this role, although I think he did a good job. Again, Pedro Pascal's character was a waste of time. Why was he in it? Give him more lines. And Denzel Washington, again, not his best work, but let's move on.
Worse. The acting, the characters, the writing, and the cinematography are all a massive downgrade from the original. It's bloated and self-important, the finale makes no fucking sense,
True.
and if nothing else...
The finale is just stupid. It doesn't make sense at all. The brother rides through the opponent's army. Like, what? Like, what? Somebody kill him then. Fuck, you know, mate. Why is this brother, this old man, trying to fight a gladiator, one of the best combatants in the fucking empire? Why is he trying to 1v1 him when he's got an army behind? Whatever.
It's proof that Ridley Scott's best days as a director
Yeah,
are well behind him. It's a film that never should have been made by a director who shouldn't be making films, and
True.
it's one that I think everyone involved is going to end up regretting. Now, how...
I fully agree with that. Ridley Scott's been cooked since Napoleon, mate, and probably since some of those Alien reboots. I mean, this shit, like, last year Napoleon was one of my biggest disappointments, because after Oppenheimer, I was like, there's a chance that we can have another amazing biopic. I mean, to be fair, 2023 was the year of the shitty biopics. Apart from Oppenheimer, it feels like there was a Ferrari one, there was a Priscilla one. I hated them all, except for Oppenheimer. This, again, shows that this brother's cooked. He's like 86, isn't he? Why is he just remaking movies? I mean, there's some good action scenes in Gladiator, though. I do like some of the fight scenes. I think they're pretty cool.
House of the Dragon was one of the standout shows of 2022 for me.
I've never watched House of the Dragon, to be fair. I'm still scarred from Game of Thrones, so we'll move on.
Number 3, Alien Romulus.
Oh, I forgot about Alien Romulus. I totally forgot about this movie. I went and watched it with my friend, and it's just one of those forgettable movies. Did I review this? I don't think I made a review video on it. I just didn't think it was worth my time. Like, the movie's okay. Like, it's fine. But it's not really good. You know, the characters are forgettable. The storyline's forgettable. I mean, it's just rehashing the same franchise. Just go watch Alien 1, mate. Way better than this shit. Just don't bother with this.
Talk about failing to stick the landing, man. The trailer got us all pumped up for what looked like a return to form for the Alien franchise, and the competent direction, grounded production design, and decent setup laid the foundations for what should have been a solid action horror movie. Instead, it soon devolved into cheap member berries and nostalgia baiting, recycling ideas and dialogue from far better movies, and an ending that completely fell apart. It could.
Oh yeah, the ending was horrible in this movie. They kind of lost me at some point. Like, it was fine, and then the whole pregnancy thing, oh my god, it was gross and it was weird and it didn't make any sense. And it was like, let's try and be different. How about you just make an original movie instead of rehashing this? You know what I mean?
Should have been an easy win, but instead it turned into a cheap and embarrassing failure. Number 4, Argylle.
Okay. I don't understand. Did anyone think this was going to be good? Like, this woman, I forget her name. It's not Jessica Chastain. She looks like Jessica Chastain. What is it? Fuck. She's the one from Jurassic World. And I think she's one of the weakest parts of Jurassic World. And the Jurassic World is shit. And she's one of the worst parts of it. In this, she's meant to be a weird secret agent. Just, it's so shit, mate. Like, what were they thinking with this? Like, they literally marketed it around Henry. What pissed me off, yeah? The marketing is all around Henry Cavill. Right, and they did that on purpose because everyone loves Henry Cavill, mate. Top tier actor. He's gonna be in the Warhammer 40k new series or whatever they're doing. Great guy. And then this woman is the main character. Really? Super unbelievable. Super shit. This is one of my worst 5 movies of the year. And when they heavily marketed this shit all year long, I saw it everywhere. Trailers in every movie. Sometimes 2 before the movie would start. They sponsored Chelsea Football Club, which is my team I support. After that, I was like, yeah, this movie's gonna be fucking terrible, mate.
If ever a movie failed to make use of an impressive cast and a fun premise,
I forgot they had Bryan
the
Cranston.
trailer built it up as a reality-bending action comedy with Henry Cavill playing a suave fictional super spy who might just be more real than he seems. Instead, it turned out to be a tedious and unfunny slog about a fat middle-aged woman who somehow turns out to be the most deadly secret agent in the world.
Yeah.
Bryce Dallas Howard looks
That's her name, Bryce Dallas Howard. Course.
Comfortable, especially when she has to do anything even resembling action. Henry Cavill's barely even in the movie, and even Sam Rockwell can't rescue what turned out to be a complete dud of a film.
Yeah, Sam Rockwell's definitely the best part of the movie. I mean, they marketed this on Samuel Jackson, mainly Henry Cavill and Dua Lipa, and they all had a combined screen time of probably like 5 minutes.
Now, this last one's probably going to be controversial, but here goes.
Haven't seen Arcane or watched it, but yeah, it's not something I really care about. Arcane. I'm not a League of Legends player. I played some Valorant, but not League of Legends. But yeah, that's the end of that video, guys. Please be sure to go check out the original. So if you want to see all of it, obviously I cut some bits out that I haven't seen. Like, I can't really give you any commentary on The Crow because I haven't seen it, or anything I haven't seen. So if you want to go listen to his commentary and let him explain why he doesn't like or likes the movie, be sure to go do that. And yeah, man, that's just my opinion. You guys let me know whether you agree or disagree with these. And if you like this video, be sure to check out my best and worst movies of the year. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.